Justin was in his hospital bed. Even though he was 12 years old, his parents decided he needed a mastectomy. He was suffering from gynecomastia, which was male breasting. It happens sometimes to boys going through puberty, and usually it disappeared on its own. But Justin's case was a bit more severe than most, and so he was going to have those growths, as he called them, removed. He had worn a bandage across his chest for several months to hide them. But after the surgery, he would only have to wear bandages for a few more days, and then he would be able to go shirtless like the other boys if he wanted to. In his room was his family and the doctor who was going to perform the surgery. His dad had just moved back into their house a couple of months ago. His parents had been separated for several months, but they got back together, and both his mom and his dad had assured him that it was never going to happen again. They called it a midlife crisis, and now that they were back, they had rekindled their relationship and they seemed more in love than ever. They now schedule date nights and they plan long weekends at the local hotel just to have alone time. Justin was embarrassed every time his mom and dad got affectionate in public in front of him. They were old, almost in their 40s, and weren't supposed to be acting like that. Justin was at the cusp of the age to know exactly what that really meant. Justin loved to spend time with his dad, Raymond. Their time together usually involved sports and other physical activities. They loved to fish and camp together. His dad was always in the stands at all of Justin's sporting events. Justin was a jock and played a variety of sports. It didn't matter which sport he played, he was good and he loved them all. Justin wasn't very close with his mom, Karen. Justin looked a great deal like his mom. It was just a freak-out genetics that he looked so much like his mother, but his personality was just like his dad. Justin knew she loved him, and she was also at all of his games rooting him on. But when he wasn't in the game, such as when his bat was over but his team was still up, his mom would usually be knitting. She loved her son. She was a great mom, but she didn't really have any interest in sports. It didn't matter to Justin, he knew she would always be there for him, and they loved each other dearly. Justin's 15-year-old sister Patty was also in the room. Even though there was some sibling rivalry and he would prefer a brother he could do things with, they were really close. He could tell her anything, and she just seemed delighted in all he was doing. She seemed to be even more interested in the things that she herself had no interest in. When she told him about what he was doing with his friends or what went on at the game, she would show him that she was truly interested in his activities. He even told her about how he and his friends got a Playboy. She took it all in and kept his secrets from their parents. He knew he should feel odd telling her about this, but he felt so comfortable talking to her about everything. He knew he didn't want to know what she did on her dates. She was just so cool. The doctor had completed telling Raymond and Karen about the final preparations for the operation and what to expect. The doctor told Justin's family it was time to go. The nurse was about to come in and give him a sedative for the operation. Karen hugged her son with all the motherly concern she could muster. Raymond muffed Justin's hair before leaving. Patty asked her parents if she could have a few moments alone with Justin. They agreed and left the room. When they were alone, Patty took what looked like a pen out of her purse and clicked it. After clicking the pen once, she said, "Justin, you will return to the way you was before you ever saw this pen, but remember all that happened to you." Thinking for a moment, she then added, "You will stay in bed and not raise your voice." Then she clicked the pen again. Justin's whole demeanor changed. Every bit of boyishness left not only her face but her posture too. She didn't think she was a 12-year-old boy anymore, she was a 39-year-old woman. Her name wasn't Justin, her name was Karen, and she could remember everything that had happened to her. She knew who had done it to her, and she was looking into the face of her tormentor, Patty. There were so many emotions going through her mind she couldn't decide which to express, consciously or even subconsciously. She settled on using her motherly, "I'm the adult and you will stop what you are doing at once" tone. Even though she really didn't look like an adult anymore. Karen wanted to get out of bed and yell or even maybe hit Patty, but she couldn't do a thing. She couldn't get out of bed. That made her scared that she was helpless. Then she remembered what she was in the hospital for. They were going to remove her breasts and she couldn't do anything about it. It was at this point she got so terrified that she couldn't even speak. I wanted you to have one last moment of being yourself before you embark on your new life forever. When the operation is over, there will be no going back. But by then you won't even know that you haven't always been Justin, so I guess for you it won't matter anymore, Patty said in a matter-of-fact manner. Karen started to cry. It was then that Patty clicked her pen again. By the time the nurse had entered the room to give Justin his shot, his tears had dried and Patty had joined her family in the waiting room. Months earlier, Justin had been grounded by Karen. Ever since Karen and Raymond's separation 3 months ago, Justin, who idolized his father, was acting up more and more. Karen was at the end of her rope with him and finally decided to ground him even though he was 12 years old. He had to return home from school immediately and was constantly watched to make sure he was doing as he was told. Karen knew if she left him alone for a minute he would find a way to get on the internet and chat with friends or play around. Or he would play with his video games. Karen wanted this to be so unpleasant that he would not act up again. So he was never left alone. Either his mom or his 15-year-old sister were continually watching him. Patty, his sister, bristled under watching Justin. She had other things to do in her life, including being with her boyfriend. Patty had just discovered that her boyfriend had been cheating on her with her best friend. Patty had made plans to get even with them. It was at this moment when she needed to go to put her plans into action that Karen informed her that Karen was going shopping and that Patty would have to watch Justin. Patty complained that it was not fair that she had to watch him. He was a big boy. He was actually as tall as Karen and could watch himself. She reminded Karen that she had taken away his PSP and had changed the passwords on the computer. But Karen thought that Justin was a clever boy and could figure a way around that, plus she thought that part of the punishment was to be physically watched all the time. Patty just had so much to do. She had gotten this pen from the Spells US store and wanted to punish her soon-to-be ex-boyfriend and ex-best friend. The guy at the store told her that this pen could reach into someone's mind and make any changes the owner wanted. It could be something simple such as to have them spill a drink on themselves to a total change in personality or even identity. The way the pen worked was that you held the stopper down and then say what you want to go into the mind of your victim, and then you release it, and what you put in their mind was there to stay as if it had always been that way. When Karen told Patty that she would have to watch Justin, Patty decided it was time to test the pen out. She had never thought of using the pen on her own family, but if Karen wanted Justin to be watched, then Patty would make sure that Karen would be doing the watching. Patty clicked the pen and said to Karen, "Take Justin with you shopping." Then Patty released the pen clicker. This was a simple thing. No harm done. Besides, Karen was only going to the grocery store anyway. True, it took a while to go through all the aisles to get what they needed for the week, but if Justin was going to be bored, he had might as well be bored with Karen and not make her watch him. Patty had things to do. Patty decided that if Justin was going to have to be with his mom, then she should make it easier on her. Patty clicked her pen again, this time in front of Justin, and simply told him, "You must be at Mom's side until you get back from shopping." Then she once again released the pen clicker. Justin immediately went into the kitchen and stood next to Karen, who was preparing to leave. He stood by her side and followed her as she gathered her things. Patty realized that Karen would notice something odd, clicked her pen again and said, "Mom, you do not mind Justin being with you all the time." Soon they left for the stores. What Patty didn't know until she got home was the reason that Karen didn't want Justin with her. Karen wasn't going grocery shopping, she was going clothes shopping. She was going on a date for the first time since she had become separated. She wanted to buy some new sexy lingerie and a new dress. Karen wasn't going to do anything with the man she had been fixed up with, but even though that man would never see it, the lingerie made Karen been sexy and desirable, and she needed to feel that way after the breakup, separation of her husband. With the new commands in both their minds, Justin would always be at Karen's side no matter what she was looking at. He was bored and embarrassed as Karen spent well over an hour looking in the lingerie aisle. This would be her first date with a new man in years, and Karen didn't really know what to wear exactly. Even though the man couldn't see what she was wearing underneath her dress, what she wore in her mind made a statement. She had to decide between sexiness and style and comfort. She didn't need to wear a girdle, she was very thin, she had the opposite problem. She needed something to accentuate her curves. Should she wear a padded bra or wear no bra at all? She really could get away without wearing a bra, she didn't have much of a chest. But if she wore no bra at all, was that sending the wrong signal? She went back and forth on issues like this, which is why it took so long picking out her lingerie. All Justin could do was complain, but he couldn't leave her side. But things got worse while she was perusing the dresses. Karen had to try the dresses on, which meant going to the dressing room. Justin couldn't leave Karen's side, and so he had to be snuck into the room with her. Karen didn't mind because of Patty's last command. But Karen did make Justin turn his back while she was changing. Finally, after over 3 hours, Karen had completed her purchases and they headed home. Later that evening at dinner, Patty found out what had happened and she found it hysterical. She didn't mean for it to happen, but it was just too funny. It never occurred to Justin or Karen that Justin could have just waited outside the changing room, or that it was totally inappropriate for Justin to go in with her. Justin's chief complaint was that he was very bored. He had little interest in girls, although that was changing, and no interest in girls' underwear. He was just bored to tears. After a while, Justin's complaining became annoying to Patty and she pulled out her pen. "Justin, you are only bored because you don't understand fashion," she said. Then she pressed down the clicker on her pen. "Read Mom's fashion magazines so you can learn everything you need to know about fashion. I am sure you will enjoy it." Patty released her finger on the pen clicker and continued. "This will give you something to do while you are being grounded." Then Patty turned to Karen and said, after pushing down the clicker again, "Mom, you don't mind that Justin will be reading your magazines?" Patty said as she lifted her finger on the pen's clicker. "Do you?" "No, of course not," Karen said matter-of-factly, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. Neither Karen nor Justin found anything odd in his new reading habits, even though Justin didn't tell his friends about it. After dinner, Justin went into his mom's room and picked up one of her Vogue magazines and took it into his room and started reading. He had so much fun reading the magazine that he lost all track of time. This was the first thing he did that he actually enjoyed since his mom grounded him. He wouldn't tell his mom the fun he was having. He was afraid that if he did, she would ground him from reading fashion magazines just like she grounded him from video games and the internet. Several days later, after Justin had started learning a bit about women's fashions, he happened to remark that women's clothing is so much different than men's clothing. There was so much to worry about. Everything had to match, and the styles seemed to change from magazine to magazine. Karen said that wasn't always true. Women usually wear the same types of things as men. Well, dresses and skirts are an exception. But it's really all the same thing. Then she jokingly said, "I'll bet you could wear clothing from my closet and no one would even notice." Patty felt a bit devilish. Patty didn't know that the pen was corrupting her. The wizard would have told her, but she never asked. Patty suggested, after she pressed down the clicker on her pen, "Justin, why don't you take that bet and make Mom wear your clothes and see if anyone notices?" When she released the clicker, she continued, "Why not dress as each other as much as you can in a way that no one would notice, and then go shopping to see if it worked?" Both thought it was a great idea, and Karen led Justin to her room. Thinking about it, it was her idea. Karen thought that as far as the panties go, it didn't matter how girly they were since no one would see them. She decided upon a cute bikini panty in a multicolored striped pattern. She could have had him wear a pair of her socks that she usually wore at the gym, but she decided that a pair of white cotton tights was so much more feminine and underpants no one would notice. Next, the most unisex type of clothing he would wear is a pair of his mother's jeans. Karen was never too curvy, and so almost any style of jeans would do. But she made sure the brand name wasn't stereotypically womanly, even though she thought no one would notice that. Next, she decided that he couldn't wear a bra. Someone might notice the bra straps, and after all, she didn't wear a bra all the time anyway. Next, he would need a shirt, but she decided to give him a loose-fitting scoop neck tunic in cranberry. She could have just given him one of her t-shirts, but everyone wore t-shirts. Men don't wear tunics, although what the real difference is open to debate. Then she saw it. It was a women's polo shirt. It had 4 buttons on top. It was in a soft blue, but it wasn't a girly color. Because it was a women's shirt, the buttons buttoned on the opposite side than a men's shirt. She knew no one would notice. Boys and men didn't know such things, and women who did know wouldn't notice, or even if they did, they would be polite enough not to say anything. The last thing was shoes. She really couldn't have him wear any of her shoes. It wasn't a matter of size, but there was no way to not notice they weren't women's shoes, especially since most of them had some sort of heel. But even the flats wouldn't do. She looked at her sneakers, but they had pink trim and she didn't want to embarrass her son. This was just a fun bet. She decided that he would have to wear his own sneakers, but that for their shopping excursion they would buy him a pair of white, or white and blue, women's sneakers. Because Justin was wearing his own sneakers, Karen didn't have any of his shoes to wear either when it was time to pick clothes from his closet. But before that happened, Patty went to her mom's room to see how it was progressing. She was delighted when she saw the panties and the tights. Karen indicated to Justin that he should change. But before he left the room, Patty, with her pen already clicked, said to both of them, "We are all family. You are never embarrassed to change in front of each other." Why she said it she didn't know. Maybe she just wanted to see Justin put on his mom's clothes. Or she might have been influenced by the pen. Either way, Justin got naked right in front of them and quickly put on the panties, which was as easy as putting on his own briefs. The problem was the tights. It was actually a good thing that his mom didn't give him privacy to get dressed, because if left alone he would have torn them. Karen showed Justin how to ball up the tights and slip it on each foot one at a time. It was easy when you knew how. Pantyhose would have been a little tougher since they were surer and more likely to run. That was the hard part, and soon he was dressed. He looked fine. He might be a bit out of place wearing a polo shirt among his friends, but since he was with his mother no one would give it a second thought, let alone that the buttons were on the wrong side. They then adjourned to Justin's room to select some of his clothes. On the way, Patty asked Justin how he felt in his mom's clothes. Justin said he was a bit uncomfortable, meaning he felt that wearing girls', or women's in this case, clothes just felt awkward. Patty took out her pen and told him he would find wearing women's clothing even more comfortable than boys' clothing. Patty knew what Justin meant when he said his clothes were uncomfortable. But with Patty's suggestion, not only wouldn't Justin feel awkward wearing his mom's things, but he would actually enjoy wearing them since they felt so good on his body. He thought that the panties were smoother than boys' briefs. The tights felt so good hugging his legs. The polo shirt felt softer than his usual t-shirts. Because of Patty's suggestion, if Justin wore a bra he would find it supported his chest snugly even though he didn't have any breasts that needed support. There was nothing that Karen couldn't wear. Even the ripped jeans that she chose were in style now. She quickly put on the clothes. For a moment, she was naked in front of her son, but unlike in the dressing room, neither was embarrassed in the least. It was very quick and easy to get dressed in Justin's clothes. She put on the boys' briefs. They were very much like plain white cotton panties. The material might have been a bit thicker, but it didn't matter. There was also a fly in front. She didn't have to use it. Besides, some girls' panties that Karen saw actually had a faux fly. She didn't know why they would make such a thing, but it didn't bother her too much either. Other than that, everything was just like the women's clothes she wore. Jeans, t-shirts, socks were all the same for boys and girls. Girls' clothing might be cut a bit differently, but they didn't have to be. Getting dresses was only half the bet. The rest of the bet was to then go to the mall and see if anyone noticed. Even though no one would care, Justin still hoped he wouldn't run into any of his friends while out. Once they got to the mall, they went into Walmart and got women's sneakers in a white and blue for Justin and boys' sneakers for Karen. Justin was a bit nervous that someone would notice he was wearing tights while he was trying on the sneakers to make sure they fit. The tights were a bit thinner than socks, but it was close enough. No one took any notice. Karen also would get some boys' shoes in her size. In the end, the only difference between the shoes they wore was the name of the size. Karen was wearing a men's size 6 and Justin was wearing a women's size 8. They left the store wearing their new purchases. After shoe shopping, Karen on her own suggested they look in the women's department to see if Justin had truly learned anything from his new interest in her fashion magazines. In some of the fine details, Justin actually knew more than Karen did when it came to clothes, especially dresses. But Karen had obviously been a woman all her life and had the practical experience and the knowledge that comes with wearing clothes of this type for almost 40 years. She was impressed at some of the things that Justin did know. She had read the magazines that he had, but she did it casually and he was directed to learn as much about fashion as he could. After a while, Karen didn't need a new dress. Her date didn't go very well. They returned home without buying anything other than the sneakers. It was time for Justin to get new sneakers anyway, and so he kept the woman-styled sneakers they bought today as his new standard pair. He wore them every day and no one suspected they were women's sneakers. It was their little secret. Karen decided to wear the boys' sneakers she had bought for herself too. She wore them at the gym or when she was casually walking around. While walking around the mall, due to Patty's suggestion, Justin noticed how good his clothes felt. The panties were smoother and thinner than his normal underwear and they felt great. The tights felt like they were massaging his legs with every step. The shirt was so much softer than any shirt he had ever worn. Justin was tempted to ask that his mom buy him some tights and panties. But he would just die if any of the guys found out, so he didn't say anything. The next day, when Justin went to school, he wore the exact outfit that his mom had worn the day before except for the sneakers. Karen wore the clothes that Justin wore the day before too. The clothes were a day old and should have been put into the hamper, but the little secret about their trip to the mall actually brought them a bit closer. Patty's relationship with her new boyfriend was going very well. She had a date with him on Friday night and she wanted to be out with him for as long as she wanted. Patty didn't want to remove her mom's concern for her. She just wanted her not to worry. The easiest way was to keep her busy. Justin's grounding had lasted quite a while and he wanted to play his video games again, among other things. Patty decided the best way to keep her mom from worrying was to give her something to do. So she took her pen and clicked it and told her, "Why don't you have Justin teach you how to play his video games? I am sure you will have lots of fun playing. Keep playing until I return home." Patty didn't mean what she said, she just wanted her mom to be occupied, but she instructed that Karen learn everything about playing Justin's video game and that she would like it as much as any of her usual activities, all because of carelessly saying the words teach and fun. After Patty's suggestion, Karen went up to Justin's room and told him he could play with his video games as long as she could play with him. She justified it to herself that she was just seeing what he liked about the games. Also, Justin had been very good since that one day they went shopping together a short while back. Justin hadn't played any of his games in such a long time that he didn't care that he was playing with his mom, who he suspected would be terrible. Justin chose a game in which he and his mother weren't playing the game at the same time. He thought he could play until his character got out, and then his mom would go and quickly get out, returning him to play again. Sort of like playing alone with only a few seconds between each game. But his mom insisted on not only learning what to do but how to do it. She asked how the game worked and the strategy of winning. She seemed to be truly getting into it. She couldn't play well at first and he easily beat her, but she was trying to get better. She wanted to know everything, and she wasn't just humoring him like a mom trying to indulge a 5-year-old. She was playing hard and she was laughing and having fun, and when her man got killed she took it seriously. She was actually trying to win, and she almost did several times. It was just his long experience with the game that kept his mom from beating him. After a while, Justin decided they should try another game. His mom was becoming real competition for him and he didn't want his mom to beat him. Sure, none of his friends would ever find out, but it was still too embarrassing. By the time Patty had returned, Karen had learned how to play several of Justin's video games and she enjoyed them immensely. Much like Justin was spending more time reading her magazines, Karen had resolved to spend time playing his video games even while he was at school. Karen and Justin were getting along better and better every day. They had more and more in common. Not only the video games but the love of fashion too. Karen was thinking about limiting Justin's punishment, but what example would it set? She gave a certain time limit and she had to stick to that schedule. While at the dinner table, Karen and Justin were talking about fashion and one thing led to another, and they were reminded of the time they wore each other's clothes to the mall. It was fun fooling everyone, they had agreed. Patty suggested what they were both thinking, that they should try it again, but they should try and push the envelope. Both agreed. Patty didn't even have to use her pen. Justin in particular wanted to feel those soft materials of his mom's clothes on his body. It felt so good last time. Once again they started in Karen's room. She wanted to see how far she could take it. She decided that bikini panties were very close to boys' briefs no matter what the color was. This time she got out something that even she barely wore. It was a lace pink thong. She also decided that cotton tights and cotton socks were just too close. No one looks down at a boy's socks anyway. This time he would wear nude sheer pantyhose. Everyone wore jeans, so this time she got him a nice knit women's slacks. There were subtle pleats in the front of the pants, but men's pants sometimes have pleats in the front too. This time he would wear a bra. Most of Karen's bras were padded, so he would have to wear a padded bra. To keep anyone from noticing, he would have wear layers of clothing. She found him a nice button-down blouse with long sleeves and a collar. It had a V-neck and she thought it was very pretty on her. But she covered it up with a sweater vest that left the shirt collar exposed as well as the sleeves. If you looked very hard you could see in the back the outline of where the bra was fastened. But who looks for such things? The only real problem was shoes. There weren't any shoes that a boy would wear. Once Justin's clothing was decided, he quickly got undressed and put on his thong panties. Even though they were very soft and felt good on his skin, he found that they were giving him a wedgie and he didn't know how women wore such thing. Karen noticed his distress and told him to wait, she would get him something. Justin thought that his mom would bring a different pair of panties. But she didn't. She brought him a feminine napkin and told him to put it inside the thong. Justin had never seen a feminine napkin before and didn't know what it was used for. But when he put it inside his panties it did keep it from riding up his butt. Justin decided preventing wedgies is why women wear feminine napkins. His mom smiled to herself about what he was wearing. She didn't tell him the true purpose of the feminine napkin. She didn't even tell him they were called feminine napkins. His father would have to give him the birds and the bees talk. That talk wouldn't include what he had put into his thing. He would probably learn about it from health at school. Justin quickly put on the rest of his mom's clothes. The pantyhose he didn't have too much trouble with. It was just like the tights. But the bra he fastened in the back and then pulled it on like a t-shirt. Karen knew that wasn't the right way, but she didn't see any need to correct him. The rest of the clothes he had no trouble with. He actually looked very handsome in her nice thing. Justin, like most 12-year-olds, only wore jeans and t-shirts. It was nice to see him in a button-down shirt and slacks, even though the shirt was actually a blouse. The pants were a bit tight in the waist and loose in the hips, but it didn't matter. The pleats actually made the pants hug his hips pretty well. The blouse was cut for a woman's figure and was sewn to narrow a bit at the waist, but you couldn't see the stitching under the sweater. The sweater was a little too ornate for the typical boy, but since he was with his mom, no one thought anything about it. Those who did see him actually thought he looked good, and those mothers with boys his age wondered how they could get their sons to dress better. The only things out of place were the sneakers. He should be wearing dress shoes with this outfit. But this is the best she could do. None of Karen's shoes would work. It didn't matter. If anyone asked, she would just say that the sneakers were more comfortable and that he would change later. Justin was wearing the sneakers he always wore now. No one knew they were women's shoes. Justin again was wearing women's clothes, and no one thought anything of it because that is their expectation. Everyone thought he looked good, not effeminate. Since Justin was so dressed up, Karen couldn't just put on Justin's t-shirts and jeans. It would look odd for a boy to be better dressed than his mom in public like that. So she found Justin's Sunday best, dress shirt, dress pants, black socks and nice shoes, and put them on with a pair of boys' briefs. She tried to tuck the shirt snugly into her pants, but her pants were slightly loose at the top and tight at the waist. But what feminine curves she had along with the makeup and jewelry enabled her to look presentable as a grown woman in public. She decided that it was the accessories that make the woman. She found a purse in her closet that matched the shoes she was wearing, which also helped the look. The bet, although she supposed it was really a dare, talked about clothes, not accessories. Boys don't have any accessories anyway. They decided that Justin was going to use his newfound knowledge to find his mom a pretty dress. Justin would do all the dress selecting, then his mom would go into the changing room and put it on. It reminded them of what they did the first time they went dress shopping. Justin entered the dressing room with his mom and watched her try on the dresses. It was now quite normal for Justin to see his mom half, or even fully, naked. Although while in the dressing room, Justin didn't feel the need to turn his back while his mom was undressing. Justin covertly picked out the dresses while trying to look uninvolved. When they had a few, Justin and Karen found their way to the dressing rooms. Karen tried them on one by one and they picked the best one. Then Karen said, "I wonder what you would look like in it. You picked it out, you should try it on." Justin was intrigued and agreed. He had been having so much fun with his mom between the talks about fashion and playing video games. She was as good as him in several. Karen was actually better than he was, although Justin wouldn't admit it. And almost as good in other games. Now they were playing like friends, not like mom and son. Although their relationship was made quite clear whenever Justin brought up an end to his punishment. Frankly, Justin was curious too. Justin then stripped out of his clothes until he was down to his bra, pantyhose and thong. He then put on the dress. The dress was a pretty cowl-neck A-line dress with a defined natural waist and puff sleeves. Karen looked at him and thought something is wrong. Well, there was no mistaking the head that came out of the dress, but everything was completely feminine from the neck down except one thing. Then it hit her, she was already in her stocking feet. She took off her socks and reached down the front of the dress and put them into the cups of his bra. Then she placed a hand in front of her eyes to block out his face. With the way he was dressed, he looked like a woman. The dress in many ways did all the heavy lifting. It had to since Karen herself wasn't very curvy. But with the padded bra and the pantyhose, in many ways Justin looked better in that dress than she did. Karen thought that with a little makeup and the right accessories you couldn't tell that Justin was a boy. Justin posed in front of the mirror, and before he knew it, Karen snapped a picture of Justin in the dress. That broke the spell, and Justin quickly got out of the dress and pulled the socks out of his bra cups. He then proceeded to get dressed in the clothes he brought. Karen couldn't convince him to try on any of the other dresses. Karen then got herself dressed. She took the chosen dress with her as they left the dressing room and paid for it. On the way home, Karen changed the conversation to a problem they were having with one of the video games, which eased the tension. Karen wouldn't show the picture of Justin to any of her friends or Justin's friends, of course, but showing Patty was quite a different matter. Karen showed Patty the picture, and they both agreed that under the right circumstances, with the right clothes and makeup and some accessories, that Justin could be mistaken for her. He did look an awful like her after all. This sat in Patty's subconscious until one day, Patty needed the house to herself. She wanted to see her boyfriend and make out, but she was getting tired of doing such things in the back of a car where everyone could see them. She wanted to do it in her living room. But what to do about her mom and brother? Then it hit her: have her mother teach Justin about putting on makeup. Justin had taught her all about video games, now she should teach him something that she knew. So Patty took out her pen and pressed the clicker. "Mom, Justin could be so pretty, you want to teach him everything you know about putting on makeup. Start on the basics and then show him more and more complex things. Teach him everything you know until I tell you to stop." Then she turned to Justin and continued, "You want to know everything Mom wants to teach you. If you love fashion, you have to know makeup too, since it's part of fashion." This gave Patty the entire night to spend with her boyfriend. Karen and Justin went into the bathroom, and Karen did as Patty said. She started with the basics, what each type of makeup is and what it's for. Then she started where everyone starts, lipstick. Justin thought he knew how to put it on. Of course he didn't, and Karen wiped off the mess he made on his face and showed him how to properly apply lipstick. They tried several times with several colors until Karen thought Justin had the hang of it. Then they moved on to the eyes. First using just one color and then other colors, and how to get the proper look by combining the colors. There was so much to learn, and Justin tried his best, but even after several hours when Patty came to retrieve them, there was a long way to go. Patty gave Justin and Karen plenty of time to practice and learn each time Patty's boyfriend came over for some cuddling and other fun activities. Patty saw the improvement in Justin's technique every time she saw them after her boyfriend left for the evening. Justin's hair was starting to get long, which Patty thought made Justin look more like Mom all the time. This delighted her corrupted mind. Karen asked Patty to take Justin to get a haircut. Karen wanted to use the time to play some video games. Patty took out her pen and said, "Mom, why don't you go down to the salon and cut your hair so it's about the same length as Justin's?" Patty didn't know why she did this. It was just something that popped into her mind. She could have easily told Karen to take him herself. But she didn't. Karen did as she was told and came back home with considerably shorter hair. It was styled in a feminine manner, but it was considerably short. Actually, since the length of Karen and Justin's hair was the same, she could style her hair with a little effort into a boyish style like his. Despite Patty's interference in her mom's and brother's lives, Justin started whining that he was spending too much time learning about makeup and fashion. By now those lessons included accessories and hairstyling. He wanted to do some of the boyish things that he had been doing before. When Patty asked like what popped into Justin's mind was baseball. He wanted to throw the ball around. But Justin was still grounded. His grounding should have ended long ago. Patty didn't know why she used her pen to extend it. For some reason, Patty enjoyed that Justin and Mom were spending so much time together. She wanted this to continue, by suggesting to one or the other to try the hobbies and pastimes of the other. Justin couldn't play catch-all by himself and Patty didn't want to play with him, so with a click of Patty's pen, Karen decided she wanted to try and learn how to play baseball. Actually, Patty told Karen that she wanted to learn about all sports. That since she had been teaching Justin about makeup, that she should learn about what he knows. It was on spirit of the moment whims like this that Karen and Justin started to like each other's things. Karen developed an appreciation for action movies and Justin learned to love dramas. Patty used her pen time after time to keep Justin and Karen together and out of Patty's hair, while Patty pursued boyfriend after boyfriend. Just like the makeup lessons, they started with the basics. The first basic of playing sports was that Karen had to learn how to run. She originally ran like, well, a girl, and you couldn't do that and play baseball. They actually had a great deal of fun. Karen was instructed to enjoy what she was doing and Justin was feeling good that he could teach his mom about something that he knew. Their backyard was pretty small, so Karen suggested they go to the park to play more. Karen knew that Justin was still being grounded, but if she was there then it would be all right. Karen wanted to learn more and going to the park to play was the best option. She also didn't want her friends to see her. So she wiped the makeup off her face, then she put on one of Justin's t-shirts and a baseball cap and they went off to play. With the way she was dressed, she looked like a boy from a distance. He had taught her about his video games, but that was quite a while ago and this was something new. Between the makeup, fashion, video game play and now sports, Justin and his mom had never been closer. They had been spending all their free time together. They had been doing all the housework together, laughing and talking like old friends. Sometimes they would talk about video games and sometimes they were talking about soap operas. It didn't matter, they seemed to have everything in common and of course there were no secrets between them. Karen was spending so much time with Justin that she had to give excuses to her own friends as to why she wasn't seeing them as much. She only saw them when school was in session when she couldn't be with Justin. When school ended, Karen avoided her friends saying that she had so much to do because of the impending divorce or some other excuse. One day, Justin got home from school and said that his friends were going to play laser tag. Justin was still grounded. His grounding should have ended long ago, but Patty didn't know why she used her pen to extend it. For some reason, Patty enjoyed that Justin and Mom were spending so much time together. She loved seeing Mom play video games with Justin or Justin and Mom discussing the latest issue of InStyle magazine. Karen helped Justin finish his homework while they were cooking dinner. There wasn't an aspect of each other's lives that Karen and Justin wasn't involved in together. With another click of the pen, Patty had convinced Karen to play laser tag with Justin. By now Patty didn't even think about these odd commands she was giving her family. Something would occur to her and she just took out the pen and made it happen. This time Patty had a new boyfriend. The old boyfriend didn't work out. She thought he was too much of a mama's boy. He didn't think so, but with just a flick of a pen, he is now an extreme mama's boy. He stays by his mom's side as much as possible, doing anything she wants. Patty also phoned the boy's mother with pen in hand so his mother can exploit her son's new status. It would be awkward for Justin to be playing with his mom, so it was decided, since they looked so much alike, that Karen would dress like a boy and go with him not as his mother but as his friend. This would be the first time that while together outside in public they would be two boys having fun. Sure, when Karen was playing ball with Justin, Karen did sort of look like a boy. But this time they had to sign up as boys and Karen had to be a convincing boy. Karen phoned the laser tag arena and paid by credit card. She then faxed the permissions to the place indicating that two boys would be arriving at a designated time. The laser tag arena required pictures, so Karen dressed like a boy and took off all her makeup to take a picture with her digital camera to send over. But how could she make herself look like a boy? She had worn Justin's clothes and still looked like an adult woman, but now she had short hair. She decided to try and wear stereotypically boyish clothes so that she could pass. The first thing she needed was a bandage to hide her breasts. This wasn't needed as much for the picture as for when they actually arrived at the Lasertag arena. Then she put on some boys' briefs. She could have worn panties, but she decided to go all out. She found the rattiest jeans that Justin had. Jeans she probably should have thrown away a while back. She needed a t-shirt that she couldn't wear normally. Something slightly off-color that the kids were wearing. She found a Life's a Beach t-shirt and put it on. Then she actually found the sneakers that Justin were wearing the first day this all happened with some athletic socks. She really didn't need it, but she hid her hair a bit after combing it into a boyish style with a baseball cap. She then went out to show her family. Patty personally took the picture. Patty's new boyfriend didn't last the afternoon. Patty discovered that he was the type of boy who didn't want to work and made his girlfriends pay for him. Patty changed his attitude towards work before they broke up. He left her house with a new work ethic. The last time Patty saw the boy, he was headed to the department stores at the mall to look for a job as a makeup lady. No other job would do, and he wouldn't quit until he found a suitable position. The Lasertag Arena made a confirmatory phone call to ensure that the permission was legitimate and they were all set. The Lasertag had had experiences where boys forged their parents' signature, but never had an adult who pretended to be a boy. At least not an adult woman. She didn't look like a woman anymore, she looked like a kid, like a boy. But when out in public, the accessory that really cemented her image as a boy was that she was walking with Justin. They were two boys out together laughing and joking. All seemed perfectly normal. Karen did have some womanly mannerisms in many ways. But she didn't have as many as she used to. She had dropped several of them while learning to play sports. She doesn't run like a woman anymore, and she didn't move like a woman while she was wearing boyish clothing. You couldn't throw a ball with a limp wrist. You couldn't field a ball with your hands up in the air. With a little practice, it was impossible to tell she wasn't as much of a boy as Justin. They arrived at the Lasertag Arena and checked in. They had to wear Lasertag vests which were perfect to keep Karen's wrapped-up breasts hidden. They also gave them a helmet with a visor. When they were all done with their Lasertag uniform, not only did they look like each other, there was no distinguishing them from the other boys who were playing. Karen had a lot of fun. She was actually in shape because of the sports practice she and Justin had been doing. As with every beginner, she didn't do so well the first round. But she got the hang of it eventually. It never occurred to anyone that she wasn't just another kid playing. After one of the rounds where they had won, Karen went over to hug Justin in victory, but he quickly made her aware that boys didn't do that. He pushed her away before anyone could see and gave her a high five instead. This was the first lesson in how boys act around each other. Karen had to not only restrain her womanly mannerisms, but develop boyish rituals. Karen knew some of these rituals, she had seen them. While playing as a boy, she would have to force herself to behave appropriately. But despite this faux pas, both Justin and Karen had a great time. The only problem was that they couldn't go for ice cream after with the other members of the winning team, since Karen obviously didn't bring her purse with money. The Lasertag had been prepaid and she simply forgot to remove some money from her purse to carry in her pockets instead. Since they couldn't go out for ice cream with the gang, they left to go home. On the way out the door, they bumped into a couple of girls. One of the girls told Justin, "Hey, you were really great out there." Justin hadn't noticed her while playing. The girl had noticed Justin at one point, and from then on, she was never very far away from him in the Lasertag maze. "My name is Jessica and this is my friend Kelly," she said. Karen, sensing that Justin didn't know what to say exactly, spoke up for him. "I'm Carl, and this is my cousin, Justin. I didn't see you out there." Karen thought both girls were cute and she could see that Jessica had a crush on Justin. "Oh, we aren't very good, we spend a lot of time hiding behind some of those fake rocks. But we just love to play." In truth, they were very good players, but Jessica saw Justin at one point and decided to follow him instead of getting too involved in the game. "This was my first time, but Justin plays this all the time," Karen explained. "Oh, I can tell," Jessica said, directing her comments to Justin. "You played great, you got so many people." Justin's pride rose for a moment and he forgot himself and spoke up, "I didn't play really that well today, I am much better, but this was Carl's first time so I was showing him the ropes. You should see me when I can go all out." "Oh really? I would love to see that. Why don't you call me and we can play again? Let me know when you and Carl are going to play again and I'll meet you with Kelly. My number is 555. That is not what I meant. I don't know when I can play again, I'm sort of being grounded. This was just a special occasion," Justin said nervously. "Well, at least friend me on Facebook." "You can do that, can't you?" "I guess I can." Karen, realizing what she thought was best for her son, got a pencil from the lasertag desk during this exchange. Karen asked Jessica for the number again. Jessica quickly repeated the number. Karen said that she was sure that Justin's mom would let him play next week and that they would see the girls here then. To make things easier, Karen said that Justin would call only if he couldn't make it. Jessica said it's a date, and then left before Justin could back out. Who would have thought that when they went out that Karen would be her son's first wingman? Karen thought that Jessica was a very pretty girl and a sweet girl. Karen had actually noticed that Jessica and Kelly were following them while playing, but she didn't say anything. Karen knew something was up, but she didn't know which girl liked which boy. She had hoped that the girls weren't interested in herself. Karen had decided to make sure that the next time they went to play laser tag and saw the girls, that she would make sure that Justin had some money so they could all go out for ice cream or a burger with the girls. Either due to the pen's corrupting influence or Patty's carelessness, Justin and Karen kept becoming more and more involved in each other's interests. Not only did Karen now love sports and video games, but she also spent more and more time on the internet chatting with Justin's friends and playing the online multiplayer games. Karen originally only went on the internet to make sure that Justin friend Jessica. While on, one of Justin's friends started a chat. Karen couldn't just leave, she didn't want to insult Justin's friend while using Justin's account. She said that she was Justin's cousin, Carl, and told him that she was staying at his house for a while. This boy had said, "I saw Justin throwing the ball around in the park with someone." "Was that you?" Karen said, "Yes, he was teaching me how to throw and we needed more room than in the backyard." Which was true. I thought he was throwing with his mom. But she wasn't dressed like his mom. I guess I was wrong. That's why I didn't come over. No, it was me. And with this shared embarrassing moment, Karen made her first boyfriend. They started talking about sports and video games. New topics that Karen had an interest in but couldn't talk to her friends about. They chatted online for an hour. Karen decided that she wouldn't be a spy. That anything she learned about the boys she was with she would never tell their moms. After all, she had an even bigger secret than they did. She also developed an interest in the cartoons and TV shows made for tweens that Justin and his friends liked. Justin developed interests in Karen's pastimes and activities too. He learned how to cook and do needle crafts. Justin also developed a love for the more mature programming such as the daily soaps and romantic comedies and dramas. They had so much in common that Karen and Justin weren't just mother and son, but they were also best friends. Actually, they were best friends, BFFs and buddies all rolled into one. When in private, they would jump from activity to activity. They could be playing video games in the afternoon and then they would quit and make dinner together. Both loved to experiment with spices while cooking and would give each other suggestions on what to cook. They were so in tune with each other that they could give just a look and the other knew what she was thinking. When they went in public, they would have to decide their relationship. When they went to the park to play, they left the house both dressed and acting like boys. It was so much easier to go and play as two boys than as mom and son. Also, if there was a pickup game, Karen could play too if she was dressed as Carl. When it was time for shopping, they were both grown women. Justin just loved to shop now. He spent more time reading Glamour and Vogue than Karen did. But there was no way he could let his friends know he was shopping for women's fashions. So Justin fixed up his hair, put on some makeup, dressed in his mom's clothes, and Karen and Justin went shopping. Justin had discovered it was just as much fun to shop even if you didn't actually buy anything. Karen taught Justin how to walk in heels like a woman. She didn't want him to walk like a runway model or cartoonishly feminine. She just taught him how to hold his purse and not clomp around like a boy. This was good enough. While at a store, one of Karen's friends, Susan, saw them. Peggy needed them out of the house because she was bringing over yet another new boyfriend. The last one was just too cocky and presumptuous. But with a click of her pen, her former boyfriend couldn't get an erection while around women. He couldn't get one ever if he was alone and thinking of girls either. But to make up for this, he would become rock hard around men, especially if the man was partially dressed or naked. Unlike Justin's friend, this woman came over and greeted them. Karen could not avoid introducing her cousin. Karen thought quickly and decided to call Justin Maggie instead of the obvious Justine. This woman knew Karen had a son and she didn't want there to be any suspicion. The three shopped together for a while talking about this and that. Justin knew a lot about womanly topics to fit right in. Justin even knew some gossip about Karen and Susan's friends. He had found out from their son. Justin got along as well with Karen's friend as Karen got along with Justin's friends. Eventually, both got so comfortable in their personas that they had been accepted into each other's group of friends. Meanwhile, Patty's next new former boyfriend was leaving Karen's house. Patty discovered that this boy never loved her. He would tell Patty that he loved her, but he only wanted one thing. Patty, with pen in hand, made sure he found true love. This man fell in love with his best friend that day. He'll find his friend and never want to leave his side. When he isn't telling his friend that he loves him, he'll be gazing at his best friend lovingly. He'll worship his best friend, he'll beg for kisses, he'll weep for joy at his best friend's touch. Nothing will be too much for him. Patty hoped his best friend would love him back. Or at least that his best friend is a woman, but it didn't matter too much. Whether they were both acting as boys or as women, they were described to each other's friends as a visiting cousin. An excuse was made any time people expected to see three of them. Such as if Justin was dressed as a woman and someone commented about the whereabouts of her son. No one suspected a thing since what was going on was just so preposterous to even be considered. While Justin was out of school, Karen and Justin were together all the time, although they were rarely seen as mom and son. When dressed as a woman, Justin had little problem acting like a woman. With a great deal of practice, his walk and mannerisms seemed feminine. Karen could play shortstop with the best of them at the pickup games at the park. She was so good that the other kids wanted her on their team. Both Karen and Justin were having a lot of fun. Justin and Karen's lesser tag date with the girls had finally arrived. Karen insisted that they go, but Justin was reluctant. Justin couldn't get up the nerve to phone Jessica to cancel the date, so they had to go. Karen knew that she had trapped Justin. She could have made it that he would call if he was going to go, but this way he would have to talk to the girl no matter if he went or didn't. Once they arrived and started to play, Justin got lost in the game. Jessica, who was very good too, held back. She didn't want to show up her new boyfriend. They all had a great time and went to Burger King after. Karen made sure that Justin had enough money to pay for them all, which impressed the girls. Karen sensed that Jessica wanted to kiss Justin, but Justin was either too shy or just didn't know how to go about it, so they didn't kiss. Karen thought it was too bad. Jessica was really a great girl. If Karen was a real 12-year-old boy, Jessica would make a great girlfriend. While both Justin and Karen were playing baseball in the park with several of Justin's friends and some boys that neither of them knew, Karen saw a strange sight. A man 18 years old was pushing a large stroller. The man was dressed in drag. He was clearly a man, as his broad shoulders, developed biceps and facial stubble could attest to. But his hair was styled in a feminine manner. He wore a touch of makeup and was wearing a sundress, pantyhose and some sensible women's shoes. He didn't look like a flaming drag queen or someone trying to look for attention. He was dressed like a young mother out on a stroll. He was pushing a large stroller in which a teen girl of about 15 was sitting. She was dressed like a toddler and sucking on a pacifier. Her eyes were large and alert like any toddler. She was looking at everything as if she was a toddler looking at the world for the first time and trying to understand what was going on. Karen couldn't detect any deception in the personas of either the man or woman. They were so natural that Karen didn't even recognize that the girl was Patty's former best friend. Patty had used her pen long ago to make her ex-boyfriend think that he is a young single mother who is pregnant with her second child. Patty's former best friend thinks that she is a 2-year-old toddler. She seems to be a smart, happy and friendly child. She doesn't have the look of a retarded teenager who is incapable of learning anything. She indeed picks up things as rapidly as any other 2-year-old. The only problem is that she forgets what she has learned while sleeping. Every day is a new day for her and she'll never progresses in mental or psychological age. They get government help to pay for food and rent like any other single mother with young children, although they aren't classified that way. Regardless of their appearance and their lifestyle, their actual names hadn't changed. Karen had gone to the gynecologist at Patty's request to get a prescription for some very strong female hormones. While Karen was away, the phone rang. It was Susan, who wanted to go out for a light lunch and do some shopping. When Justin told her that Karen was out, Susan suggested that Justin go out with her instead. Justin had spent time with this woman in dresses as Karen's cousin several times before, and Susan thought she was speaking to the cousin of Karen, not Justin. Justin thought this was a great idea and told the woman to come over and pick him up. Justin went to get dressed, but couldn't find a feminine napkin to go into his thong so it wouldn't give him a wedgie. That is what he thought the feminine napkins were for. He also thought his dick was used for peeing only. When he found Patty to ask her if she knew where he could get a feminine napkin, Patty asked why he needed one. Justin explained and Patty inquired didn't he know what feminine napkins were for. Justin didn't know. Regardless, Patty found him a feminine napkin and Justin got dressed and put on his makeup, styled his hair, and by the time Susan had arrived was quite presentable. They then left in Susan's car and had a wonderful time. This was the first time that Justin was out in public, en femme, without Karen. When Karen arrived home, Patty used her pen, although she didn't know why she needed to tell Karen she should teach Justin everything she knows about sex and the birds and the bees. When Justin arrived home, the lessons began. Because of Patty's poor choice of words, Karen didn't tell Justin everything she thought he should know about growing up to be a man, but instead everything she knew about sex. Because of an earlier command, there was nothing that Karen thought was inappropriate to tell her son. She started at the beginning, the first time she came home with blood in her panties. She told him how she thought she was sick and that she was embarrassed to tell her mom, so she hid it. She told how eventually her mom found her bloody panties and then told her about her period and how she was going to grow up to be a woman. Everything Karen told Justin was from her own perspective. She told him not only the facts about men and women and having a baby, but she also told him her personal private feelings. Things she had not told anyone before. She had to tell everything she knew and she was going to do it. She told about her first crush, the boy never knew. She told about every relationship she ever had. This included her lesbian experimentations in college and some sexual practices one of her boyfriends talked her into but she never liked and to this day still regretted. The discussions went on for days. No detail was overlooked. This included her relationship with Justin's dad. How they met, how they fell in love, their wedding, the birth of their kids, Justin and Patty of course, and even the marital difficulties they were having now. Karen related every intimate detail of her sex life with Justin. Justin took all this in and in the end knew Karen's entire sex life and all her intimate relationships as well as Karen did. Karen knew everything about Justin's life by hanging out with him and his friends. The one thing that Karen didn't know about was about Justin's school routine. This changed during the second period parent-teacher night. As Justine and his mom went from class to class, Justin pointed out where he say who was around him and how he felt about each class. He also told his mom about where he sat in the lunchroom and all of the other social activities he was involved with. This last step marked a turning point in their relationship. Up until this point, Karen and Justin had been inseparable. They did almost everything together. Whether they did it as mom and son, or as two women or as two boys, they were almost always together. They had grown so much alike that it actually started to irritate Patty. Sometimes it was like having two little brothers and other times it was like having two moms. So she took her pen and told them, "You shouldn't be so much alike all the time." By now, Patty sometimes didn't even realize she was using the pen. She had made several pen-fueled suggestions to both her mom and Justin without even noticing in the past, and she would make more in the future. This started the schism in their relationship. Karen was going through a separation when this all started, and being a kid seemed like a lot more fun than being an adult, so she leaned toward more of the boyish activities she now enjoyed. Justin found being an adult an adventure. He could do what he wanted and didn't see any limitations. So slowly at first and more each day, Karen spent more time as a boy and playing with Justin's friends, and Justin became the adult woman and mom in the family. It started slowly at first. Karen wanted to join a sports club to play organized sports with other boys. She asked Justin to go with her, but he wasn't into it. Karen had to find a club where she could show up to the practices and game already in uniform and then leave and shower at home. After looking around for a little while, she found a volleyball league for tween boys and she joined it. She had never played volleyball with Justin, but she enjoyed it immensely. Since Justin wasn't going to join and it would be easier to sign up with a real name and real address, she signed up using Justin's name. Justin, on the other hand, decided he wanted to know more about cooking. Karen was self-taught when it came to cooking, and Justin thought that taking a course would be fun. He decided he would fit in better if he went posing as a woman. Justin had the same problem applying to the school as Karen did joining the volleyball league. Justin found the same solution. He called himself Karen while at the cooking class. Justin also thought it was particularly important to wear jewelry and makeup when going out as Karen. Justin remembered when this first started that Karen could wear Justin's clothing and still be thought of as a woman. He knew that the hair and makeup made up a big part of his mom's persona. With makeup properly applied and the right hairstyle, he could pass as a woman. But to cement his image, he also made sure to wear as much jewelry as he could get away with without looking silly. He always wore earrings when going out as Karen. But he also lied to wear a necklace, bracelets, and rings too. His mom didn't wear her wedding ring since the separation, but he wore it. It didn't occur to him that the wedding ring served two purposes. Not only did it help his disguise as a woman, but it also kept men from hitting on him. Well, not totally, but it did cut it down. He also liked to wear barrettes and clips in his hair. He actually delighted in anything that he could wear that boys didn't wear, but women did. This might also have been another effect of Patty's simple statement that he would find wearing women's clothing even more comfortable than boys' clothing. It could have also been just his way of adding to his disguise. There was no way of knowing. Karen put on her boy clothes and wanted to go to the park to play some football. She had assumed that Justin would want to go with her. But Justin saw a recipe in one of the magazines he wanted to try, and he also wanted to watch Dr. Oz, so he wouldn't go. Karen decided to go alone. There would be kids at the park and she was sure she could get into a pickup game. She did and had a lot of fun. She decided that playing sports is a more fun way to keep in shape than exercising at the gym. From then on, Karen didn't always even ask Justin if he wanted to go to the park, laser tag, or any other kid event. She just got dressed up like Justin and went. It was during one of those times that Justin decided he wanted to go to the mall. While looking around aimlessly, Justin discovered Spanx. He bought them on the spot. Wearing Spanx with his penis pointing down gave him a perfectly flat stomach. This would be uncomfortable for any other boy, but Justin could comfortably wear any woman's clothes. Also, the variety of Spanx he found came with butt pads. These butt pads gave his butt a lift, making them look more womanly in anything he wore. Justin wore Spanx anytime he dressed up as Karen from then on. Susan called to remind Karen that they were having the weekend card game at her house. Karen had been making excuses for not going to these card games in recent weeks. She quite frankly would prefer to play video games instead. But Susan was insistent. It was her turn to host and everyone was coming over. Karen couldn't get out of it. It was then that Justin found a solution. Justin could be the host of the card game while Karen had a sleepover at one of Justin's friends. Karen thought this was a great idea. Playing with Justin's friend would be a lot more fun. Cards was okay, but the endless conversations with her friends about silly things such as their relationships or what they bought on sale. She had been doing that for years. It was all the same silly thing all the time. She also suspected that if they all got together they would gang up on her and either try and fix her relationship with Raymond or try and set her up with a new man. She didn't want to be bothered with men at all at this point. The card party was for tomorrow, so Karen and Justin went out to get the proper supplies. They would need a cake and other snacks. They would also need some of those flavored coffees. When they got to the store, Justin informed her that he wanted to actually bake the snacks. So instead of buying a ready-made cake as Karen had assumed, they bought flour, sugar, and other cookie and cake baking necessities. But they did buy the flavored coffees. All the girls loved them. The next day after school, Karen prepared an overnight bag to take to Justin's friend. Karen had to figure out how to change into Justin's PJs without him seeing her naked. She was sure she could do it. Other than that, no one should suspect a thing. She played video games and waited for the time to leave to start the sleepover. Justin, on the other hand, was a torrent of activity. He had to not only bake the cake and the cookies and make the coffee, he also had to set up the tables and clean the house before the girls arrived. He had to make sure the house was particularly clean because the girls would judge him on it. They didn't know that this was actually his first card party and he wanted it to be a success. He was more worried about that his house would be clean enough and that he was the proper host, than that he was actually a boy. He had been so secure in his womanly persona that he didn't think about it anymore. Both Karen and Justin had a wonderful time that night. Karen had a lot of fun playing with Justin's friend. They played with all of his friend's toys and his video games. They even got into a wrestling match. It was just so much fun. Justin was also having a similar time. All the girls loved his cake and no one said anything negative about his house. Justin deflected all the talk about dating new men. But the thing that made Justin feel the best was that everyone loved his outfit. He had decided to wear a blouse and pant set instead of a dress. This was actually the outfit that he wore on their second shopping trip in each other's clothes. No one could detect he was wearing women's clothes back then. Now with the Spanx underneath, his face properly made up and all his feminine mannerisms, no one suspected that he was a boy. The Spanx had given him a feminine shape, particularly on his stomach and butt. He had bought falsies to put into his padded bra a long time ago and he thought he looked great. All of Karen's friends agreed. The actual playing of cards was the least important thing about this get-together and Justin fit in without a hitch. After the girls went home, Justin thought that since Karen was having a sleepover in his clothes, he should put on one of Karen's nighties and sleep in her bed. He found her nightie, just like all of her clothes that he wore, exceedingly comfortable. It was softer and smoother than even the most comfortable dress that Karen owned. It felt great on his body and he wished he could wear it all the time to bed instead of his ordinary cotton pajamas. He even preferred the pretty lace to the sports animations that were on his own pajamas. Even though Justin and Karen spent less and less time with each other, their bond and their affection for each other had never been stronger. They knew more about each other than most married couples and they loved each other deeply. Throughout this entire ordeal, Raymond exercised his visitation rights. Raymond saw his kids every weekend, but he had them at different times. One weekend he would spend time with Patty and the next he would spend time with Justin. When the weekend came, Karen hadn't expecting it to be a Justin weekend and so when she was dressed in her boy persona, Karen had to go with Raymond for the weekend. But, since Karen was pretending to be Justin, things were different. Their relation had a different set of rules. They weren't equals in a marriage, they were a father and son. This removed all the pressure off of Karen. Firstly, as Justin, Karen was loved unconditionally by Raymond and she felt that. All the issues of sex, betrayal and money were gone. Raymond's girlfriend was not around when Justin came over and Raymond could devote his entire attention to his son. Going fishing up on the mountains with Raymond was the best time Karen had had with Raymond in many years. All the games were gone. Raymond simply wanted to be with his son and that was enough for both of them. They didn't even have to speak much while fishing and all they did talk about was fishing and sports and school. All that was said about school was that it was fine and his teachers were fine. Raymond got the hint and moved on to football. During this weekend, Justin lived the life of a woman full-time. He slept in Karen's bed. He wore her clothes, watched her shows and ran her errands. Justin combed his hair in Karen's style and as far as anyone knew he was Karen. Justin asked one of Karen's friends to drive him around. He said the car was broken in some way. He didn't have to explain, Karen's friend didn't know much about cars anyway. None of Justin's friends came over since they knew he was with his dad. When Karen got home, she discussed her weekend with Justin. She was worried that she took his dad away from him. But Justin had had so much of a ball being Karen for the weekend and that they decided that Karen would have the visitation in boy mode. She deeply loved Raymond but he had betrayed her. But spending time with him as his son made her forget all that. Justin and Karen had come a long way. Karen was no longer depressed, while she wasn't depressed when she was living like Justin. She wanted this feeling to continue and half-jokingly suggested to Justin that they switch lives for an entire week. But Justin said that they were pretty much doing that anyway. What Karen meant was totally not just pretend. Justin would sleep in Karen's bed and she would sleep in his room. She would go to school and he would do all of her chores. She would call him Mom, which she had never done before, and he would treat her like his son. Somewhere since this started, Karen and Justin, regardless of the way they were dressed, treated each other like friends, not mother and child. Karen wanted to return to the old relationship for a week, but she would be the child. To solidify this agreement, they started with haircuts. Karen, for the first time in her life, went to a barber and cut her hair short and styled it in a definitely boyish manner. Justin, on the other hand, went to Karen's hairstylist and styled it properly. Anyone looking at either of them knew that they were mother and son. There were that strong family resemblance, but there no one would guess who was really the mother and who was the boy. It was when Justin was about to pay for his styling that he realized that he didn't have enough money and couldn't pay for it by credit card. So he had to go to the ATM to get the money. Karen told him her ATM code. When they got back home, Karen gave Justin a lesson on all her finances and how to sign her name on checks and credit cards. She said no one would really check as long as we paid the bills on time and didn't complain. Karen had also been teaching Justin how to drive. It was a necessity when Justin was wearing women's clothes and Karen was in her boy persona. She couldn't drive while looking 12. Justin had learned quickly since he didn't have the detriment of the lack of maturity of a teenager. Justin had become quite mature and responsible since this all began. Monday came and Karen went off to school. She knew everybody and knew her way around the school, so she had no problem. It was a fun adventure and she loved every minute of it. She could be a foolish kid as she had been many times before, and she didn't have a care in the world. The last remnants of her adulthood drifted away into nothingness. She was in bliss, and all she was doing was going to school like everyone else. She knew none of the other kids appreciated what they had. While Karen was luxuriating in the simple joy of a day at school, Justin decided to see if he could get his own driver's license. He went to the DMV to say he lost his license and get another. They told him he would have to come back with his birth certificate and his social security card and several other documents. He did so, and then they made him take a driver's test. He didn't expect that. He was just trying to replace a lost one. But what caused the mix-up he didn't know. He couldn't refuse the test and he had to pass, or neither him nor his mom would have a valid driver's license. He didn't get a perfect score, but he did pass, and they took his picture, and after paying $53 he left with a temporary license and was told his permanent license would be in the mail in 2 weeks. He hadn't meant to do it, but he had done it. He got a driver's license. He would have drove home on cloud 9, but he did the responsible thing and paid strict attention to the road instead. He celebrated when he got home. He spent the rest of the day at home. He had some chores to do, but he didn't mind. It was worth it just to have a driver's license. He started dinner preparations just before Karen arrived back from school. Karen didn't stay long. She was just dropping off her books and was going out to play with her friends. Justin reminded her to be back for dinner at 6:30. Who was happier, Justin, who had just gotten his license, or Karen, who had all the pressure of being an adult lifted from her shoulders? The next day, Justin kept looking at his temporary driver's license. It had his mom's name, but it was his ID. He had earned it. It had his picture on it and his signature. As far as the DMV was concerned, he was Karen and he was licensed to drive. He was already driving, but he wanted to use the ID. So he drove to the local college where he was taking his cooking class, and he personally signed up for a needlepoint course. He would learn to sew, crochet, knit, and other needle crafts. He signed his name and then paid by credit card. No one said a word. He was probably the happiest person who ever signed up for needlepoint. This was so much of a thrill that he wanted to do it again. He decided to sign up for Boy Scouts. He wouldn't go, Karen would go. She would love it. But Justin didn't care. For the time being, he was the adult and she was his son, and she'd have to do what he told her. Mom had done this type of thing without asking him before. When they switch back, if they switch back, then they'll see who was really going to Boy Scouts. Tonight, Karen had volleyball practice. Tomorrow would be her first day of Boy Scouts. After enrolling, Justin had a lunch date with one of Karen's, while they were now his friends. They talked and laughed and had a good time like two old girlfriends. Karen's friend hadn't seen what she thought was Karen happier in quite a long time. After lunch, they went their separate ways. Justin had one more thing to do before Karen got home from school, and he told her about Boy Scouts. Justin was going to open a bank account of his very own. He had an ID. He had discovered Karen's SS number in order to get his license. He thought it would be easy, and it was. It was so easy that it was anticlimactic. He went in, they had him sign a form and show ID. He gave them the deposit money, and within 20 minutes he had a bank account all his own. One that he didn't have to forge the signature. The signature on the account was his. He even signed up for a credit card while he was there. While this was happening, Karen was at school. Today there was gym. Karen had prepared for this by wearing her gym shorts under her jeans. She didn't want to change for gym, and they couldn't make her. In her gym uniform, the gym teacher noticed the bandages around her chest. She couldn't take a chance that anyone would see her small but still womanly breasts. It was decided before allowing Karen to participate in class they would call her mother. It was while Justin was getting a bank account that the call arrived. He answered Karen's cell phone and told the school that there wasn't a problem, that Justin could engage in all school activities. It was at gym that Karen met a new kid, Timmy, who had just moved to their town with his mother, Lydia. There was something that Karen really liked about Timmy. Karen felt a kindred spirit in the boy and struck up a friendship immediately. Even though Karen was in reality a grown woman and Timmy was just a boy, they felt like natural friends. Karen was friendly with all of Justin's friends, but for some reason that Karen couldn't put her finger on, it just seemed natural that Karen and Timmy should be best friends. Actually, Timmy wasn't really that little, he was taller than Karen. After dinner, Justin drove Karen to volleyball practice and decided to do a little shopping while he was waiting to take her home again. As Justin warmed even more to his role as a woman, he became increasingly critical of his body. He used tricks to make his body look womanly, but he could see the little imperfections. He simply didn't really have a womanly shape. Sure, he was thin and women would kill to be as thin as he was. He could fit into a size 2. But he wanted some hips like his mom had. They weren't big, but they were there. Karen had told him all the facts of the birds and the bees, including hormones and birth control. It was at this point that Justin decided to start taking his mom's hormones. He took his first one as soon as he got back home and took 2 a day every day from then on. The week went by quickly. Karen was torn about joining Boy Scouts. It wasn't her decision, Justin sort of just sprang it upon her. Boy Scouts were actually a lot of fun, and when she found out that Timmy had joined this troop even before moving here, she was overjoyed. Karen and Timmy were becoming the very best of friends. In the end, Karen did have a great time at Boy Scouts, and she was glad Justin had signed her up. When the weekend arrived, Karen had forgotten again that it was Justin's time with his dad, and so she had to go with him again. The problem was she had planned to get a wig so she could return to being a woman for the new week. With no other options, on Monday she was back in school. But she really didn't mind too much. Timmy would be at school. It is natural for children to want to grow up into adults, even if it is on their own terms. Because of Patty's pen, Justin had matured into a woman. Women's clothing felt fantastic on Justin's body in so many ways. He didn't only think they felt softer, smoother, more comfortable than boys' clothing. But he thought they made him look better. An offhand comment that Patty said months ago allowed Justin feel great in anything he wore. Even the high heels didn't bother his feet, and tight underwire bras felt great around his chest and back. Karen enjoyed her boyish activities, but she chafed at losing her adult status. It wasn't natural to be treated like a child by adults. Patty had long ago made the boyish activities that Karen now performed on a daily basis seem more fun than anything she used to do as an adult. Cleaning the house, making dinner, buying clothing, even talking to adult women about their silly relationships and the senseless gossip seemed like such a waste of time. She wanted to ride her bike and play and do the things that boys did. She didn't want the responsibility of being an adult anymore. But with all of this notwithstanding, it just felt wrong to be treated like the kid she was acting as. Patty used her pen to help her mom. She simply made it seem to Karen that no matter what the date it was, the end of the bet would end in a few days and she could go back to be an adult then. Up until then, she would simply just have fun acting like a boy. This date simply was always coming but never arrived. A normal routine was developed. Justin was the mother of the family and Karen was the tween son. Patty's status didn't change, she was the older sister. Justin let Patty do anything she wanted when it came to her dating. She had many boyfriends, but they didn't seem to last too long. All of these boys would never be the same after dating Patty. Karen's routine centered upon school. Her life was very simple, she had no real responsibilities besides school and homework. Other than that, it was all play and organized activities such as Boy Scouts and volleyball. Justin enjoyed the adult responsibilities. He could cook the meals, clean the house, buy the groceries and chauffeur the kids to their various activities. But he also loved his new leisure time activities such as knitting and shopping. Justin felt good in anything. He started buying clothes for himself that made him feel good as a woman regardless to how they felt. It didn't matter if for a normal woman that clothing would be too tight or scratchy, Justin loved wearing it. All that mattered to Justin was that the clothing was in style and made him look good. Wearing Spanx, corsets, tight long-line bras, waist cinchers, scratchy lace materials or tight bone dresses all felt wonderful on his body due to Patty's suggestion. All he cared about was that whatever he wore looked great on him and added to his illusion as a pretty middle-aged woman.